I was 17. And that night I came home like I always did, exhausted after another long shift. But the house was empty. No one waiting for me. No sounds from the kitchen. No TV. No laughter. Just a single handwritten note left on the table. You'll figure it out. No phone call. No message. No warning signs. My family was gone. And that was the moment my real life began. Chapter 1 of the day Ella went silent. Ella and I had been close since second grade. We shared everything from borrowed socks to our deepest, most private secrets. I always thought of her like a twin sister until the day she suddenly disappeared from my life. It all started like some twisted joke. That day I called Ella, like I always did, just to ask if she wanted to go to dance practice with me. Her phone rang, then went dead. 2 days later, I stood on the edge of the school courtyard, watching her walk past with her backpack in hand without even glancing at me. She had her arms slung over the shoulders of a bunch of theater kids, even though she'd never stepped foot in that class before. What was even weirder, her mom, Dr. Lauren, the one who always drove the two of us to dance lessons every week, vanished too. She stopped giving us rides, and from that point on, their silver SUV never parked in front of my house again. While I was running around trying to make sense of it all, my dad started acting strange too. He was never home on Tuesday or Thursday nights, said he was meeting with a marriage counselor. My mom just stared at him through the locked door, sighing into a half-empty glass of red wine. Dinner became this silent routine, like laughter had been erased from our house. I kept wondering, was something broken that I didn't know about? I couldn't take the uncertainty, so I began tracking every clue. Fancy restaurant receipts tossed in the back of my dad's car, a new cologne he sprayed on right before leaving the house, and that single, quiet tear on the window as I stepped out for school. I started writing everything down in a purple notebook, every page a new question. Why doesn't he come home? Why is mom silent? But the biggest shock came right after that. At a packed school concert, I saw my dad near the exit talking to Dr. Lauren, and it wasn't just small talk. It was the way they looked at each other, the way he stood next to her, the way he rested his hand on her armrest. It was too intimate to be just doctor and patient. In that moment, my heart stopped. The man who had always been my rock was having a forbidden relationship with my best friend's mom. That night, with darkness all around, I sat on the cold stairs, listening to my dad's footsteps going up the hallway and my mother's quiet sobs behind her slammed bedroom door. My hands were trembling as I hit the record button on my phone, trapped in that suffocating silence. I made a decision. For the first time, I wouldn't stay silent anymore. Chapter 2, The Truth, Behind the Closed Door. After the night I saw my dad standing next to Dr. Lauren at the concert, something inside me shifted. Not just because of the betrayal, but because, for the first time, I realized adults can be cruel, and they'll hide everything behind a closed door. I started eavesdropping, not because I wanted to be the nosy type of daughter, but because I knew if I didn't do it, I'd never know the truth. One time, Dad went into his office and left his phone on the kitchen counter. I picked it up. My heart pounded when a message from Dr. Lauren popped up. Does she know yet? You promised you'd tell her. I can't take this anymore. I took a screenshot, printed it out, pasted it into my purple notebook. One more piece of evidence. But that wasn't the worst part. One morning I heard my mom crying in the kitchen. Unlike other times when she tried to hide it this time, she cried out loud. I stood behind the wall holding my breath. She was on the phone with my aunt, her younger sister, and she said, he's sleeping with the girl's therapist, and that girl is our daughter's best friend. Tell me what I'm supposed to do with that. I couldn't stay hidden anymore. I stepped out. My mom froze when she saw me. She tried to wipe her tears, but it was too late. We stared at each other, like two women betrayed by the same man. But we didn't say anything. Not because we didn't want to, but because we didn't even know where to begin. I went upstairs, pulled out my notebook and started writing, not to remember, but to keep myself from falling apart. They think they can hide everything, but I see, I hear, and I won't forget. After that day, I started looking at Ella differently. She wasn't just a victim anymore, at least not in my eyes. She was part of it, part of this betrayal. I didn't know if she was aware of what was going on, but honestly, that didn't matter. If I saw another message like that, if I heard her name come out of my dad's mouth one more time, there'd be nothing left between us. I didn't just lose a best friend. I lost a family I thought was real. And the worst part, no one said sorry. Not a single word. As if I was the only one left standing in the wreckage of a crack adults created and never cared to fix. Chapter 3. When Adults Play the Victim. I used to think adults always knew what they were doing, that they were mature, rational, and knew how to take responsibility for their actions. But then I saw my father, the same man who used to hold me every time I had a nightmare, suddenly become someone who avoided eye contact with his own daughter like a kid caught stealing cookies from the jar. After the day I saw my mom cry, the air in our house changed. Everything felt off. My dad started coming home late, blaming it on meetings, car troubles, or that he needed time to think. My mom grew quieter with each passing day. She no longer scolded me when I got to school late. She didn't ask me how my day was. Instead, she just sat on the couch, eyes fixed on a TV that was on, but clearly not being watched. Me, a teenage girl, had somehow become the only one who could see through the thick cloud of lies that had taken over our house. And then it happened. It was a Friday night. My mom was cooking dinner, just something simple, the kind she usually made when she wasn't in a good mood. My dad walked in, set down his briefcase, didn't look at either of us, and then dropped a sentence that froze everything in place. I need a few weeks to think. I'll be staying with a friend. My mom didn't cry. She just nodded. I stared at her, waiting for something, a scream, a broken plate, a curse, anything. But there was nothing. Just that quiet, soul-crushing nod. And my dad, he picked up his bag and walked out like he was going on a business trip, not like he was abandoning his family. I ran to my room, slammed the door, and poured everything into my purple notebook. You need time to think. No, you don't. You just needed a clean excuse to act on your dirty little feelings. The more I wrote, the more I realized adults are so good at playing the victim. They mess up and somehow still manage to come out looking like the ones we should feel bad for. My mom was hurting, but she refused to confront him. My dad cheated, but somehow he was the one who had to leave, so no one else would get hurt. And what about me? Who takes care of my pain? I missed Ella. I missed the days when we used to dream about the future together, when we roasted the girls who cheated on their boyfriends, when we swore we'd never forgive a cheater. And now, the woman my dad was cheating with was her mother. There's no irony crueler than that. But the thing I hated the most was the silence. Silence from my mom. Silence from my dad. Silence from Ella. As if my feelings didn't exist. As if I was just some invisible shadow in a story everyone else was trying to bury. But I swear, I won't let them forget that I'm here. I saw it all. I remember it all. And I won't stay silent forever. Chapter 4, The 2 a.m. Call. I don't know what was worse, the fact that my family was quietly falling apart, or that no one inside it was willing to admit it. I started losing sleep. Long, dragging nights where I'd just lie there staring at the ceiling, wondering if Ella knew. Did she know her mom was sleeping with my dad? Did she know that I had found out? Or was she still blissfully unaware, clinging to whatever was left of this thing we used to call a friendship? And then one night, right at 2 a.m., my phone rang. It was Ella. I almost couldn't believe my eyes. It had been 3 weeks since the last time we spoke. I picked up, but didn't say anything. She didn't either, not for a few seconds, and then she said, I know. My entire body went still. Know what I asked, even though deep down I already knew the answer. About my mom. And your dad. About how I lied to you. Her voice was so small I had to press the phone tight against my ear just to hear her. I didn't know how it started, she said. My mom told me she was helping your dad, that he was a patient struggling with depression. And I was stupid enough to believe her. I heard them once, in our living room, and I pretended I didn't. I didn't know if I should feel angry or just sad. Because the truth is, I had hoped Ella knew nothing. That maybe, just maybe, one person in this story was still innocent, but now even that was gone. Why didn't you tell me I asked? She stayed quiet for a long time, and then finally, with a voice that didn't sound like it belonged to a 16-year-old anymore, she answered, because I was scared. I was scared of losing my mom, scared of losing you, and I was scared that if I said it out loud, everything would really fall apart. I sat up in the dark. Tears streamed down my face, and I hadn't even noticed. It already has Ella. We both went silent. For how long, I don't know. A minute. 10 time kind of stopped, but in that moment something hit me. Even if Ella had been part of the betrayal, she was a victim too. Just like me. Neither of us wanted things to end up like this. But the cruel thing about adults screwing up is that it's the kids who are left to pick up the pieces. That night, I didn't sleep. But I also didn't write in the purple notebook. Because for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel completely alone. We both knew. We both hurt. And neither of us had a clue how to fix something that had already shattered. Chapter 5, The Truth in Their Avoiding Eyes. Ever since that call with Ella, things stopped feeling the same. Not because I had forgiven anyone, not because things got easier, but because I knew. I finally knew. All the pretending, all the avoidance, all the silence in this house, it all had a reason. My dad had dropped the act of being the busy man. He didn't even bother hiding the fact that he was sleeping somewhere else. He showed up randomly now, always carrying the scent of cologne that wasn't my mom's. And whenever he was home, he acted like a guest, asking obligatory questions, placing his bowl of rice on the table, and spending the entire dinner staring at his phone. My mom kept wearing that same blank expression. She never spoke about the affair. No shouting, no accusations. But she started smoking again, something I hadn't seen since the day she got the call that Grandma had passed, and I started to feel scared. Scared of the silence. Scared of the way adults acted like everything was my fault, just because I was the only one not pretending that everything will be fine. One day, I asked my mom directly, don't you, about Dad, about him and Dr. Carroll? She looked at me, eyes dull, like I'd just said something completely made up. Then she gave me that weak little smile, the one I hated more than anything. It's adult stuff, honey. You wouldn't understand. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was infuriating. I'm the one who's been watching everything fall apart. I'm the only one who hasn't been playing deaf and blind, and I don't understand she didn't say a word. But this time, I wasn't letting her off the hook. Why are you so silent? Don't you feel humiliated? Don't you feel hurt? Or are you just waiting your turn to go ruin someone else's family like Dad did? I knew I had crossed a line, but I didn't take it back. I was so tired of carrying all this alone just because the grown-ups were too cowardly to face what they had done. She stood up. Still no words. She just stepped out onto the balcony, lit a cigarette, and smoked. And for the first time in my life, I saw her shoulders shaking. That's when I realized maybe she was breaking too. She just chose to break in silence. That night, I didn't write in the purple notebook. Instead, I opened my laptop and started typing. Every detail, every conversation, every emotion I had bottled up. Not to post. Not for anyone else. Just so I could feel like I still had control over something. And I started to understand something. Sometimes the truth doesn't come from confessions. It comes from the way people avoid your eyes. the way they pretend to be busy, the way they fake their smiles. And when you're the only one not looking away, you're the one they label as too sensitive. But I don't care anymore. If I have to be the only one who tells the truth, so be it. Because clearly, no one else has the guts to do it. Chapter 6. When I became the adult in the house. I don't remember the exact day things finally spun out of control. Maybe it was the morning I woke up and found my mom passed out at the kitchen table, a half-burned cigarette in her hand, her eyes sunken like she hadn't slept in weeks. Or maybe it was when I saw my 12-year-old little brother cooking instant noodles for himself because no one even remembered he existed. I wasn't just a daughter in this house anymore. I was the one telling my mom to go to bed. I was the one forcing my dad to pay for my tutoring on time. I was the one dragging Ella's attention away from her phone and making her look me in the eye to admit this wasn't my fault. I had become the adult in a house where I should have still been allowed to be a kid. There was a moment I was standing in the shower water pouring down my head, but nothing washed away the tightness in my throat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash the mirror, but then I remembered if I broke it, who would clean it up? No one. Just me. I started talking to my literature teacher, Ms. Lynn, the only one who had ever given me a perfect score, not because I used the right grammar, but because, as she said, you write the kind of truth that hurts to read. She didn't ask too many questions. She just listened, and for the first time I told someone everything about Dad, about Mom, about Ella, about the betrayal, about the nights when I just wanted to disappear. She didn't give advice, didn't draw a map for me. She just placed one hand on my shoulder and said, "You're living in a burning house, and you're the only one running for water." That line haunted me for a week, because it was true. So painfully true. I didn't resent Ella as much anymore. She still came to school, still tried to talk to me even though her eyes always looked like they were on the verge of crying. One day she slipped a note into my desk. 2 short lines, "I don't know how to make this right, but I'm still here." I didn't reply. But that night I didn't lock my phone like I usually did, and when Ella called I picked up. I didn't say anything, just listened to the quiet sound of her breathing on the other end. Sometimes silence is a form of forgiveness too. I started writing again, but this time not in the purple notebook. I wrote for myself, not to accuse anyone, just to remind myself that I had survived something I once thought would kill me. I don't know when exactly my family will fall apart for good, but I do know this. No matter what happens, I won't fall apart the way they did. And if I have to grow up earlier than I should have, then so be it. I just wish someone had ever asked, "Are you okay?" But it's fine. I've learned to ask myself that every morning, and on most days, I still manage to answer. And maybe that's enough to keep going. Right. Chapter 7. A Call from a Stranger. I once called Dad. I was washing dishes when the phone rang. An unknown number. The digits looked vaguely familiar, but just unfamiliar enough to make me hesitate. I don't know why I answered. Maybe some stupid part of me still held onto hope that just once someone in this family might call because they genuinely cared, not out of obligation, not because they needed something. The voice on the other end made me freeze. Not because I didn't recognize it, but because I'd gotten so used to not hearing it. It was my dad. He asked a simple question. "How are you?" I scoffed. "How am I?" Now he wants to ask. But I didn't say that out loud. Instead, I answered with a kind of short, polite reply you'd give to an old acquaintance you ran into at a coffee shop after 10 years. "I'm fine." He went quiet. Then he started talking, like there had never been distance between us. Like I hadn't seen him holding another woman outside my school. Like I hadn't heard my mom sobbing in her bedroom because he came home late, reeking of a perfume that was never hers. "I've been thinking about a lot lately," he said. "I know I wasn't perfect." I laughed. "Not perfect is such a gentle way to say you cheated, you disappeared, you abandoned your kids." Then he told me life with the other woman wasn't what he imagined. that she was difficult controlling talked too much. I cut him off. Are you calling to complain? Or are you just looking for someone to save you from the mess you created? He went silent. Then, like he was trying to flip the narrative, he said, I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry, I had waited so long to hear those words that by the time they came, I didn't want them anymore. Because sorry doesn't undo the nights I lay awake wondering if my mom would ever come home. It doesn't give my little brother back the childhood he never really had growing up without a real dad. It doesn't turn me back into the carefree daughter I was supposed to get to be. And most of all, sorry can't unbreak the first man I ever trusted. Him. I just said, I'm not the daughter you thought you could walk away from, and she'd still be okay. Right? He didn't answer. And for the first time ever, I ended the call. I stood there, dish still wet in my hand, heart heavy, like I had just buried someone, but not with a funeral. With the realization that they were no longer family. My dad used to be my hero, the guy who fixed my flashlight, took me out for ice cream, called me his little princess. Now he's just a missed call. A voice I barely recognize. An apology I didn't need anymore. I put the phone down, wiped my hands on my jeans, and went back to the sink. Because real life doesn't stop just because someone says they're sorry. It keeps going. And so do I. Chapter 8, the sister I no longer recognize, Ella, started showing up more often during mealtimes. She didn't say much. But her presence, even as a quiet shadow, was enough to make everyone in the house notice. No one said her name. No one asked how she was. She was like air existing but ignored. Maybe the only thing that reminded me of the sister I used to know was the way she looked at me. Her eyes didn't carry that usual indifference anymore. There was something else in them, something like guilt or regret. But it came too late, and I had already learned how to build walls after every betrayal. One night while I was cleaning up my room, Ella knocked on my door. Not loud, not urgent, just 3 soft taps like she was asking, am I still allowed to come in? I didn't answer, but I didn't lock the door either. She stepped in, holding a tin of homemade cookies. The kind I used to love when I was a kid. The kind we used to bake together every Christmas before everything cracked. Ella didn't say a word. She placed the tin on my desk and just stood there, hands twisted together, eyes fixed on the floor. Finally, she spoke. I've left you alone for too long. I didn't say anything. I know everyone's let you down. And I was probably the first. Still silence. I don't know how to make it right. But if you ever need someone anytime, I'll be there. Even if you never forgive me. I looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time in years. And what I saw was a thin, stubborn girl, trying in her own clumsy way to become someone better. I said very softly, I'm not sure I can trust you again. She nodded, I know. Then she turned around and walked out, leaving behind the tin of cookies and something else too. An empty ache that wasn't anger anymore, but a quiet kind of sadness. The kind you feel when someone you once loved deeply hurts you and starts trying to come back. But you're not sure whether to open the door or not. There was a time when I wished Ella would just disappear from my life. But when she finally did go silent, I found myself missing something. Maybe because deep down I still remembered what it felt like to have a sister, someone who used to steal candy with me, who held me when I cried, who taught me how to put on lipstick for the first time in front of the mirror. That sister, she's gone. And the girl trying to come back now, I don't know yet if I can love her again. But at least I didn't lock the door. And sometimes in a broken down house, just one unlocked door is a beginning. Chapter 9. When things never go back to the way they were. I used to think that after that hug, everything would change. That maybe a part of Ella had realized how deeply she hurt me and that we could somehow start over. But maybe I was just dreaming too much. Or maybe I was just too naive, because things kept going on like nothing ever happened. Ella didn't come back to me like she used to. She kept living her life, going to school, going to work, coming home. Every now and then she'd send me a casual message like, "Did you eat yet?" Or, "You coming home for dinner?" And then disappear into her room again. I tried to act like I was okay, but inside, it was a mess. A twisted, knotted up exhaustion that never really went away. It felt like I had opened my heart for the last time, only to realize that the hug was just a fleeting moment of regret. The rest I was still left to heal on my own. Dad became more and more like a stranger. He transferred to another city for work and only came back once in a while. Whenever he did, it was always in a rush, constantly on the phone, like he was just passing through, no longer part of this house. I knew he was still seeing Dr. Lauren. My mom knew. Ella definitely knew, but no one said anything. My family felt like a stage after the lights went out. Everyone just playing their roles to get through the scene and quietly stepping back into the shadows. One night, I sat alone in my room, staring at the ceiling and wondering, am I becoming just like them? I used to be this innocent kid who believed in family, who believed someone would always be there when I needed them. Now I'm the girl who laughs when things fall apart, who writes down her wounds in a notebook, and who doesn't trust people too easily anymore. I don't hate Ella anymore. I'm not even mad at my dad the way I used to be. I'm just tired. Tired of being the one trying to fix the things other people broke. Tired of being the only one who feels pain, while the people who caused it go on living like nothing ever happened. I think I've grown up, not because I forgave them, but because I've learned how to live with cracks that never really heal. And I've come to understand there are some relationships that no matter how hard you try will never go back to the way they were. But sometimes just knowing that you loved honestly, that you showed up even when others didn't, that's enough. Chapter 10, They Came Back. When I no longer needed them, I hadn't seen them in almost 12 years. 12 years of living on my own, rebuilding myself piece by piece, slowly walking away from the pain that my own family had caused. I graduated from college. I had a steady job, a small apartment with bookshelves filled to the brim, and a life that I controlled entirely. No one yelled at me for not being obedient enough. No one ignored me when I cried. No one demanded forgiveness without ever offering an apology. I wasn't rich, but I was free. And then they came back. It started with a message from my mother. "We want to see you." We, as in them. I stared at that message for the entire morning. There was no excitement in me, no aching, just a faint wave of nausea like something old and moldy was trying to rise up from a corner of my memory that I had sealed away for too long. I didn't reply. But a few days later, Ella called. She didn't sugarcoat anything. "Dad's sick. Mom thinks if he sees you, it might help." I said nothing. I know I don't have the right to ask this, but even if you just came once, I think it would mean something to him. I don't know what made me agree. Maybe it was because I wasn't angry anymore. Maybe I just needed to see them with my own eyes to confirm that I had truly stepped out of that cycle. We met at a small coffee shop. My dad looked a lot older. His hair had gone completely white. His eyes were sunken. My mom was still thin, but her gaze no longer had that sharp, cold edge. And Ella, she was still the only one who could look me in the eye. No one brought up the past. No one said sorry. They just asked how I'd been, how work was, if I had a boyfriend. All those hollow questions delivered like nothing had ever happened. I finished my coffee, stood up, and said just one thing. "Thanks for asking, but I'm okay, and I got here without you." I turned around and walked out feeling strangely light. Not because I'd gotten revenge, but because I realized real peace doesn't come from making them regret what they did. It comes from moments like this, Sitting alone in a sunlit room, listening to your favorite song and knowing you made it. Not because of them, not thanks to them, but in spite of them. And for me, that's enough. Chapter 11, The Apology That Never Came. I used to think that if one day they came back, at the very least, I'd get an apology. Just one sentence. One honest acknowledgement that what they did to me was wrong, that they had been selfish, that they had been blind, that they had left me alone. But no, no one ever said sorry. When my mother called me after 12 years, her voice was light, as if our separation had been nothing more than a minor disagreement. I miss you so much. It's been a long time, she said, like I had just gone off to college. Not like I had been abandoned in my own home at 17. I didn't say anything. Partly because I was in shock, and partly because I didn't even know how to respond. The word mom used to carry so much love and pain in it. Now it just sounded hollow. And Ella. She sent me a message on Instagram. It was a picture of the necklace I gave her back in ninth grade, with the caption, "Still have this, no explanation. No, are you okay?" Just a subtle reminder that she still exists and still thinks she's the center of everything. They didn't come looking for me to apologize. They came back because now I have a life, a good one. I have a stable job, my own place, friends who feel more like family than blood ever did. They think they can come back like nothing happened, like I'm the long-lost daughter they've always loved and missed. But the truth is, they didn't miss me. They just forgot me. And now they remember because they want something. Maybe it's my presence. Maybe it's forgiveness. Maybe it's the image of a complete family they never truly had, but want to fake now. There was a time when I craved the chance to forgive. But now I understand forgiveness doesn't mean letting them back in. Forgiveness means untying the knot inside myself. Not to ease their guilt, but to free my heart. And if they still don't understand that, then honestly, I don't need them to. I don't need an apology because I've learned how to forgive without one. What I need is this to hold on tightly to who I've become and to never again let anyone make me feel like I'm the extra piece in a story I never asked to be part of. Chapter 12, I was the one who set myself free. 12 years isn't a short amount of time. It's a road paved with scars, with silent nights, with all the moments I asked myself why I was never enough for them to love. I used to believe that if I just tried hard enough, if I became successful enough, then one day they'd come back. They'd realize their mistakes. They'd hold me tight and say they regretted it all. But they didn't. They only came back when I was already standing tall, when I no longer needed them. It took me a long time to understand. This forgiveness isn't something you give to ease someone else's guilt. It's something you give yourself to be free. Forgiveness isn't a handshake. It isn't some teary reunion. Sometimes it's simply this: choosing to stop carrying anger in your heart. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't argue. I didn't tell them about the nights I slept in a damp, moldy apartment, or how I worked myself to the edge of exhaustion, or how I survived on instant noodles for a week just to pay tuition. I didn't tell them anything, because now I know. Those stories, they're no longer for them. I fed myself. I graduated from college. I have a steady job. I have friends I consider real family. I'm not the abandoned little girl anymore. I'm a woman who knows her worth and knows where to draw the line on kindness. I don't need a biological family if all they ever gave me was silence and abandonment. I choose to stay with myself. I choose to love the people who loved me when I had nothing. No name, no money, no hope. I choose the ones who held my hand through the dark, not the ones who showed up when the lights came on. And I have no regrets. I am no longer the victim in my story. I'm the one who rewrote the ending, and that ending is freedom. 12 years later, they came back. They knocked on my door, called me daughter, offered shallow apologies as if nothing had ever happened, but I was no longer the 17-year-old girl panicking and crying in an empty house. I had lived. I had grown. I had found my strength, and I chose not to open the door, because those who left me in the dark don't deserve to stand beside me in the light. Sometimes family isn't where you're born. It's where you're loved enough to never be left behind.